Follow on Instagram at Creatively Eccentric. New episodes every other Thursday. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Season 1 has been a wonderful, beautiful experiment. There was definitely a theme running through Season 1. Visibility, fear versus fearlessness, and the power of eccentricity was definitely the forefront of all of the guests that I had in Season 1. Those are the three that stood out to me. I just wanted to thank everybody who's listened, supported, and of course the wonderful guests that have been on the podcast. I think last solo episode I did was probably back in April, called The Power of Showing Up, Wins, Lessons and Community. And I just wanted to do a catch-up, just to talk about the things that have happened, some of it behind the scenes. I definitely want to talk about the best highlights, in my opinion, of the guests that I've loved. I think these little snippets of conversations, I think, will definitely resonate to me and hopefully will resonate with you as well. The sandwich metaphor and unbecoming. Steve describes how he lost his visibility by trying to blend in during his school and corporate years.
Yeah, it's sort of like my life's been like a sandwich. I was naturally like that as a kid. And then secondary school didn't really appreciate or embrace that. So I started rounding myself off and trying to fit in, which it didn't succeed. I didn't fit in, but I just also lost myself in it. And then into the world of work. And then the middle of the sandwich is just, I guess, trying to fit in and be normal, but really at some level knowing that that's not me. And then the final bit of the sandwich, which I'm in now, maybe it's a multi-layered sandwich. Maybe I'll go back into that bit. But is just thinking, oh no, I want to re-access that strange 8-year-old. He was much less professional and productive in that sort of capitalist normal sense of the word, but he was much more fun. He was much more interesting. Well, I think he was definitely freer because the concept of not free hadn't really entered his mind or my mind then, I don't think. Because if I think now, and there's some areas of my life that I really don't care what other people think. So with my art, I don't care if anyone likes it or not. I genuinely don't. And I make it just for me.
Breaking away from generational expectations, Nathalie reflects on defining traditional female roles and societal expectations to unapologetically pursue her true path as an artist.
The female lineage for centuries behind you has followed a certain path in one direction, married, kids, dependent on husband or spouse. And you're the person in the female lineage that has decided to change the direction and do what she really wants to do. And she said it's like steering an oil tanker. You're all the lineage DNA behind you and before you is like quite resistant to this change to get you in a different direction. And she said, and that's why it feels so challenging.
Louisa describes her long journey through situational mutism, hiding and learning to mask her true self to fit in before deciding to show up as her authentic self.
It's taken me a long time to find my voice, and I think I probably would say that Bold Voices probably resonates now, but it took a long time on many levels. So when I was younger, sometimes I would have periods of being nonverbal, like situational mutism, it sometimes gets called, and the experience of, sharing opinions or having things to say being something that didn't feel encouraged, and learning to believe that the way I spoke or the things I had to say or the way that I said things was somehow not going to be received well. I really learned to mask and to hide and to try and figure out and be what was expected and to try and fit in. Along the way, I figured out that I'm autistic, or what people categorize as autistic. And so that's been a journey of really reorienting to, oh, hold on, maybe there are sides to me that I've experienced being misinterpreted, but actually it's me. And so maybe I want to actually be me.
Kayleigh explains how leaving conventional office spaces allowed her to step into her own identity fully without feeling the need to dilute her alter herself.
I've definitely felt the freedom of giving myself the choice to be comfortable in where I am and to show up however I am. If I've got a really yum accent or whatever else it is, if I want to use my Black British colloquialisms, or I want to dress a certain way, I want to wear big gold hoop earrings because that's like my 90s throwback because, Black girl magic, then I can do that and I don't feel weird or awkward or like I'm drawing unnecessary attention to myself. I also feel like it helps to build community without trying. You kind of find yourself looking out for people that look or feel or talk like you, and those people also seek you out. So I have some really safe spaces that I'm in on online, some online communities, and everyone is just so different in these spaces, but I feel comfortable. I don't feel like I stand out. I don't feel like I may not belong. I don't feel like I may not be included in parts of cliques because I make people feel uncomfortable.
Shamsul shares how he views AI and the new independent storytelling as a way for minority creators to break into spaces without needing permission or having to alter themselves to fit traditional gatekeepers.
If you have those particular skills, which basically a creative skill and an ability to understand their technology, now the colour of your skin doesn't matter at all. Because, and those, let's take the film industry as an example, right? Sinners has made the rounds in a theatre, and it is an amazing film, right? It is a film that basically kind of like shows you that, look, there are other stories, completely engrossing, completely engaging.
Angela speaks to the importance of diverse speakers putting themselves forward so underrepresented groups are seen at major industry events.
The ultimate, to be in an event and there to be seen, the speakers that attend the event, for a start, because normally these events, you'll always have a keynote speaker or you'll have someone that's doing a panel talk or something like that. So for me to have it all, for me to feel totally 100% happy with those things, I'd love to see the speakers that are there that are of colour. And it's really hard because I've noticed a few popping up, don't get me wrong, but it's always the same people I'm seeing at the moment. I'd love to see some new people pop up and put themselves forward, because I'm not even going to lie, this morning I got a text from someone that said, would you like to speak at our event? And I was like, obviously what it's about. And I was like, maybe I should, because she actually said to me, all the speakers that have replied, they're all white and they're all of a certain age, and I need some more diverse faces in there. And it's not just about colour, it's also about people with certain, health issues, I suppose. Just different people. You need a mix of people.
Dominique reflects on the paradox of physically standing out as a tall black creative while simultaneously facing the pressure of being reduced to a diversity checkbox.
I think you're absolutely right. So you go from, I'm also quite tall. I'm a very tall person. And so there's often, like, I couldn't sneak into a room if I wanted to. If I wanted to blend in, does it quietly? But like my presence physically often wouldn't allow me to do that. And I remember when I was in secondary school, and my first day of secondary school, and it was own clothes day. So I walked into the classroom, and my teacher, I was year 7, so I was about 11, and my teacher said, "Oh, you're in the wrong place. Like, the sixth form meeting is somewhere else." And I was like, well, why do I have to go to the sixth form meeting? She goes, yeah, all the sixth formers are gathering. And I was like, no, I'm here for year 7. And she said, you're 11? And so she couldn't believe, she's like, oh, okay, well then take a seat. Yes, you're in my class. And I think, like right from that moment, like everybody else walked in and just took a seat. I walked in and I was straight away noticed and questioned, and like it's a small thing. I'm not traumatized from it, but just being the only one. I was in my class, I was the only black girl, and so on the one hand you kind of get used to walking into a room like, I'm probably going to be noticed, I'm probably going to be asked to contribute because of that. But then on the flip side, it's also, I think it's also this idea that you represent, like, I don't get seen as Dominique, I get seen as the one to tick the box, like I'm the black girl, I'm the inner city girl. Okay, and so now you represent everybody who fits into that category.
Johanna addresses the lack of visibility for black, mixed, POC founders, explaining how her platform directly challenges systematic underrepresentation.
I was looking at some data. Only 2% of the entrepreneurs in Europe are from a culturally diverse background. That doesn't mean that there's no one who wants to do entrepreneurship or who want to build a business. It's just that there are so many barriers. And then when it comes to, okay, I've overcome all these barriers, now how do I get visible? And you may not have the marketing background, you may not have all the system into social media to make it happen. And that's very sad when it's really like a really powerful tool to bring your brand to the next level. So I was like, okay, this is where my sweet spot is and where I can help my people, basically. So I want to do that. Well, to me, it's because first, we don't have the same resources available. We don't have like the same access to education sometimes as well, or the same experience or opportunities when it comes to corporate and then creating your company because of some systemic barriers. So, and this is where, to me, yeah, it makes even more sense to help those people to be visible.
Last time I spoke on solo episode, it was an update of the quarter of the year, so January, February, March 2026. I made some notes. I wanted just to take a break, take a breather, and reflect. So let's go back to March 2026. Well, for me, it was about building the foundations, creating that system to keep that momentum going for the future of the podcast. So what went well? I made sure that I was in front of the right people, right audiences, communities that I think will be relevant. Definitely feel I needed to push the podcast in front of other people, and whether it's through newsletters and communities. I recorded more solo episodes, but then at the same time, when I was successfully getting more guests, I had to temporarily park my solo episodes. I had creatives that I wanted to shine a light on and get their voice heard on the podcast, so I felt like it was only appropriate for me to focus mainly on guests in March. 10 months have flown by. If you're coming to this episode now, not heard of any of them, or you've just only come into it and you've heard the last few, please go back and check it because they're really good guests and I highly recommend them. The lessons I've learnt are definitely that there's been a shift in the podcast, especially even from March. I realised that the structure doesn't have to be so rigid. I think I was putting so much pressure on getting guests at the time. I realised that I needed to shorten in the season, so that's definitely what's going to be happening. But also meeting new people. That's been a great experience. Creating more space and time so that I can experiment. So now we're going to talk about April. I needed to get off the online space for a while and be more present in the real world. So I wanted to do more networking. I just wanted to be amongst creatives and be more creative in those environments as well. I mentioned the guests were getting more frequent. I was definitely taking a lot of time to create the system that works for me so that I can actually get the right guests. And it worked very well, but I did feel that I needed to change it up a bit. And I think that way was just to have a wait list so that I can take a break, have the guests that I needed to go onto the podcast, and then take a mini break from the process, finding, searching, looking for the right people. So what went well? Waitlist did work up to a point. I think it just needed to be tweaked. So yeah, that was a learning curve, but it was an interesting one. Also, I was having like kind of 30-minute coffee chats to see if right people would be suitable for the podcast. I think slowly as time went on, that is changing. I definitely noticed a lot more male guests appearing onto the podcast. So I think seeing more male designers and artists coming to the podcast has been very encouraging. I love to build a community where everyone is welcomed. And out of all the conversations I've had over the weeks and months, definitely built a community as well as the guests themselves. I've learnt a lot myself, key moments in these episodes from the guests that I've had on so far, because that was the whole point, the community. You are the community. So if you have an idea or a thought that might be a good topic, feel free to contact me at creativelyeccentric.com. So we're in April now, and definitely wanted to, as I mentioned before, reduce the seasons. It's like a long season for season 1, and I've been enjoying all those episodes. I needed to have guests, shorter seasons, and get more content. Definitely going to be sharing a trailer coming up in season 2, so listen out for that one. So yeah, I definitely felt like I needed to make a slight shift in the way it was constructed. I think I needed to pare it back. So definitely April was about making sure I pared things back a bit, but making the right decision, be more strategic, selecting guests. Also the topics as well. The topics I needed to discuss was equally as important. I definitely needed to get back to my creativity myself as a designer. So that's one of the things I needed to focus on. April reminded me that building something meaningful just takes time. So I think I was getting more relaxed about settling into the way I was constructing things and the podcast. So May was a good one because people are taking the time out to talk about their stories, and that's what I've been appreciating. The kindness of strangers who've now become great people who I look up to and also respect in their own chosen industries, that they have taken the time to come onto the podcast and talk about their story. So again, thank you to all the guests who've been on the episodes, who shared their stories and actually talked about their journey. And yeah, so definitely recommend you listening to those episodes. At the moment, I'm having a great time looking at the possibilities where the direction I can see the podcast will be going in the future. Now that brings us on to June. There's a lot of designers and artists that I follow on social media. I actually DM'd and said, would you like to be on the podcast? And light pitching, I would call it. And ever since then, I've been wanting to do that more and more. So June was definitely a month of, if they say yes, that's a bonus. If they say maybe, that's not a no. And I've definitely been taking up more of a stance of, let's see what happens. Worst they can do is say no. So I've been contacting a few people that I've been wanting to be on the podcast, and 9 times out of 10 they have actually said yes or maybe. And that's good. That's a good odds. And I think I definitely would love to do more pitching of other guests. That's been working a little bit better than filling out a complete Google form or some sort of questionnaire. So that, because most people don't have time to do that. So again, experimenting is the key here. So that's been going well. So in June, I went to the Designs Festival in Birmingham. But what was really important was to go there with a group of people who I've spoken to, whether they're designers, whether the guests been on, obviously the artists and designers have been on the podcast before, people I've known in the past as well. Also meeting new designers and artists. It was about learning and listening to other creatives. Learned a lot from especially the talks. I felt I resonated to the conversations happening in a particular talk or a workshop. So as well as going to the design festival, it was about being visible. Going back to visibility, I think that comes up quite a few times in the podcast with the certain guests that I've spoke to about this very subject. I needed myself to be visible. The podcast needed to be visible. And going to these networking events or festivals was one way of naturally talking about it. Because before I used to mention it casually, but being, happy and proud about what I've achieved. So in June, I was very much being more vocal about what I do, talking about it amongst my immediate design community. That was all important. So all the things I talked about with the guests, being unapologetic about my opinions, it also had to do the same for myself. There was a big shift in the way I was thinking and how I was speaking as a creative, as well as sharing my thoughts. That was season 1. Hope you've enjoyed it. Highly recommend you go back to the beginning to go through now 23 episodes of season 1. Well, you don't have to wait for too long because season 2 begins September 2026. Please join me and the new guests in September. Looking forward to hearing what you thought about season 1. Love for you to join the community of Creatively Eccentric. I'm taking a well-earned break, and I'll see you in season 2. Speak to you soon. If this episode resonates, follow, leave a review, or you can DM me over on Instagram at Creatively Eccentric. If you would love to be a guest and share your story, register to join the guest waitlist. You'll be the first to hear when applications reopen. The link to sign up will be in the show notes.